not with an empowered envoy that is actually talking directly to the Taliban, where we have the opportunity to bring them together. Senator, I believe this is a new thing, and I may be wrong, but I believe this is a new opportunity for us, and the military campaign is in direct support of that.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Peters. Senator Cotton.
Thank you, gentlemen, for your appearance today and for your willingness to continue to serve our country in new positions. Thanks to your families for loaning you to our country for so long. General Clark, let's speak about SOCOM's budget. In a time of tight budgets, when some in the administration are already talking about cutting 5% from the Department of Defense budget, many people say, but that's okay because the Special Operations Command, which is bearing so much of the fight, will be fully funded. Can you talk about your dependence on the rest of the conventional military and how our Special Operations Forces fight with them, and why stable, predictable, and increasing funding for those conventional forces is so important for the Special Operations Command?
Yeah, Senator, thanks. There are 5 Special Operations truths. The 5th truth of that is most special operations require non-Special Operations Force assistance. I believe in that truth. And we see it apparent every day in the operations in which special operations conduct, especially for longer-term, enduring missions where special operations, we need the support of the services in all of those and the conventional force. The other aspect I think I'd be remiss if I didn't highlight is that Special Operations Command is made up of the services. Much of the recruitment, much of the force is actually started in a conventional force and actually came up through the ranks, and they were identified as some of the best of breed in that particular service in which they served, and then they raised their hand and volunteered for the special operations. So the services are inherently important to SOCOM.
Thank you. General McKenzie, there's already been a lot of talk this morning about the implications of the National Defense Strategy, both for Central Command and for Special Operations Command, and its focus on near-peer or peer competition, what it means for the Middle East, where we've primarily fought counterinsurgency wars over the last 15 years. But obviously there is one power in the Middle East that has the resources and the power of a nation state, Iran. It's not a peer competitor or even a near-peer competitor, but it does have the abilities that only a nation state can marshal to threaten U.S. interests. Can you talk about what the National Defense Strategy means for you in Central Command relative to the threat of Iran?
Senator, thank you. The long-term, enduring, most significant threat in the U.S. CENTCOM AOR is Iran, and Iran's malign, hegemonistic ambitions across the theater and indeed globally. And that's clearly recognized in the NDS. There are 5 principal threats to the nation that are identified in the National Defense Strategy. Iran is one of those. It is below the threats of Russia, which can destroy us, and China, which can seriously injure us. But Iran also has that capability, and they're exploiting their malign views every day in the theater. So how the Central Command AOR, the Central Command, will be forced to deal with those is, first of all, recognize that there is going to be a force reposture to some degree in Central Command. We've already begun to see elements of that as we talk about how often carriers come into the Central Command AOR. It's going to require the command to adopt innovative new techniques to maintain deterrence against Iran, because that is sort of the underpinning of everything else that will go on in the theater, is the ability to deter Iran and respond if required to.
If Iran's leadership were to miscalculate and to challenge a U.S. Navy vessel in the Persian Gulf, or say close the Strait of Hormuz, do you have any doubt that the United States military is postured in the Central Command area of responsibility to meet that challenge?
Senator, I'm confident we can respond. And what I would also caveat it a little bit, the element of risk would be the time it would take us to reassert ourselves. And we can do it very quickly, or it might be a little bit later. But when it's all said and done, we will reassert the status quo ante bellum.
While we're talking about Iran, can we talk about what's happening in Yemen and the extent to which Iran is supporting the Houthi forces in Yemen and the implications for U.S. security and our partner security there?
So when we talk about Yemen, I think it's important to remember that Iran is behind the irresponsible behavior that actually led to the overthrow of the government of Yemen and actually created the situation that we now have in Yemen itself. So Iran has been extraordinarily irresponsive as a nation in what they've done in Yemen, and that has had a large factor in driving the conflict forward.
ballistic missiles are being launched from Houthi-controlled territory into Saudi Arabia to include in the vicinity of Saudi Arabia's international airport in Riyadh, where Americans fly in and out of every day. I'm not aware of ballistic missile manufacturing companies in Yemen. Are you?
Sir, I'm not. We are confident that those missiles come from another place. They're smuggled in. They're typically assembled there with Iranian assistance, and then they're employed by the Houthis, both against the kingdom as well as against UAE, and as you know also, irresponsibly into the Bab el-Mandeb area and into the Red Sea, where vital oil transport occurs.
My time has expired. Thank you again, gentlemen.
Thank you, Senator Cotton. Senator